All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lauren Grenice, and I am here to talk with you all about the Career Enrichment Network. If you don't know who I am, I'm the one who sends you all of the emails regarding the Alumni Mentor Program. But in addition to that, in addition to my role, I also work within the Career Enrichment Network through the College of the Liberal Arts. And I serve as a career coach, and I also instruct a course on professional development within the college. So I want to just welcome you all here today. Thank you for spending your lunch hour. So today, as we are going along, we don't have a chat feature necessarily, but we do have a question and answer feature that you should be able to see at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So I'm going to be using that as that chat feature. So any questions, comments, concerns that come up during my presentation, please feel free to throw them out there. Okay. So let's start. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to gain an overview of career concerns for students within the College of the Liberal Arts, as well as we're going to talk about future trends that may help you in your mentorship with students. Again, as we're going along, I will have stop points throughout the PowerPoint. I found that this works really well when I teach my class with students. And during those check-ins and on those slides, I'll ask for any questions that come up. Okay, so we're going to start here with career transitions. So the reason why I'm starting here is that I find that it's always really helpful to have a theoretical basis and a foundation for the work that you're doing with students. And this is actually one of my favorite theories. It's Schlossberg's transition theory. And I believe, directly connects with what we're all experiencing today when it comes to the uncertainty around this pandemic. So when we're thinking about a transition, right, and we're thinking about how transitions affect our students, so traditional aged college students, a tradition is pretty much any event or non-event that results in a changed relationship, a changed routine, a changed assumption, or a change of role that we're playing in our lives. And I know that this global pandemic has brought upon a ton of transitions for all of you in the audience. I know it's brought a lot of transition onto me with working remotely and adjusting with family and friends and so on and colleagues. But it's also drastically affected our students, our current liberal arts students. So the two types of transitions that we're really going to focus in on today are what we call unanticipated transitions, and these are transitions that are non-scheduled. So something that you don't expect to occur, like a sudden death of a loved one, or maybe a divorce, or in our case, a global pandemic. That is something that no one could have foreseen coming, right? And now, and another type of event that we're also going to focus on that is drastically affecting our liberal arts students are what are called non-events. So these are transitions that students expect to occur, but they don't. So for instance, I'm working with a lot of students one-on-one right now over the summer, which is pretty unprecedented, because they've had cancellations of internships. So they've foreseen and imagined them having this internship that could have really helped clarify their career pathways. But because of what's happened with COVID-19, they aren't getting to do so. So that is an example of a non-event type of transition. And also, another example that I have here on this PowerPoint is the failure, for instance, to get into the graduate school that you want to, or maybe you have a dream job and you get turned down for it. So, and I know that all of you as mentors have worked with with students over the past couple years who have experienced these types of things, because they're normal developmental types of transitions that we see within students. So with that, before we start really talking about career concerns, and what I've been hearing and what we as the career services community has been hearing, I want you all to just take a minute to type in the question and answer box some of the career questions that you have gotten from your mentees over the last couple months. So I'll give you about a minute or two to just type some in, and hopefully we have some good responses. All right, I'm not seeing, oh, okay, we have a couple that just came in. All of them are coming in at once. So I was like, maybe it's the technology. One of them that has been listed is, should I continue on to graduate school after graduation, or is it better to work a few years and then go to graduate school? So that is actually a question that I just recently got from a student that I was meeting with, because right now, in times of economic hardship, graduate programs and school in general normally sees an uptick of registrants. So more and more students, because they're going into a not so great economy, are looking for graduate schools instead. Another one that just came in, so their mentee's start date has been put on hold for further notice. What should she do in the meantime? That's absolutely another question that we've been hearing a lot. And I have some resources to help you all with some of these questions that have come in at the end, with some strategies that we can use. Many interests that don't lead to a clear career direction. That is one that we hear all the time for liberal arts students, especially because the liberal arts is so broad. There are so many different career directions that they can go in. So what are all of their options, and what do they look like, and how do they make a decision? Another one, how do they make their resume look as appealing as possible? So definitely working on some of those typical career questions, such as resumes, cover letters, things like that. And what if they don't get their first or second or third choice of job opportunity? Should they accept a position even though it doesn't align with their long-term career goals? Absolutely. So that's something that we hear all the time from students as well, because it's a big decision. And going back to those different types of transitions and thinking about having that occupation in mind and what they view, their realistic view for a specific occupation, and what they want to do in the long term, it's a big question. So helping them through that decision making is really important. And I know that you all are doing really great work with all of this, but I will have some strategies for you all later on as well. All right, so let's see. All right, so here is a few questions that we are hearing, that I have been hearing anecdotally within my career coaching sessions within the class that I was teaching, especially at the end of the spring semester. A really big concern is obtaining a job in the current market, right? So At last look, the unemployment rate for May was at 13.3%, which is pretty high. And I know that more and more people who are already established in their careers have had to file for unemployment, and there's just not a lot of opportunities. At least there aren't as many opportunities as we thought that there were in January and February, when these students who were graduating in the spring were going into a pretty stable economic market, right? So this is one of the biggest concerns that we're seeing. And what can the students do in order to navigate this rocky market? Rescinded job and internship offers. So this is another big one that we're seeing. Not so much with job offers, but a lot of internship offers have been rescinded. And one of the questions that goes along with this, especially for, say, juniors going into their senior year in the fall, is how do I get a job if I haven't had an internship? I had one lined up for the summer. But it was rescinded due to COVID-19. How do I go about doing that? We also have delayed start dates. So I know that was something that someone else, one of the mentors, had mentioned in the question and answer. And this is absolutely something that's affecting our current students or even recent graduates. Just to give you even a personal example, one of my family members just graduated from law school, and she was supposed to start at her firm in September, but because the bar exam got pushed back, she now has a start date of January. So that is from May to January where she might not be getting paid. So, and that is something that we're seeing. A lot of the class of 2020, if their start dates have been delayed, that's one of the financial problem that's kind of going along with that. I've heard from other students too that there's been a lack of follow-up and communications from organizations that are hiring. And while this is really unfortunate, and I know a couple of students, especially the go-getter students who want a plan that exceeds their entire 4 years at Penn State and beyond, they're having a lot of trouble with that, just because they want to know what's going on, as all of us do, but there's a lot of uncertainty. And unfortunately, when it comes to internships, some of these students don't realize that some of these companies that they're working for, they have to focus on their full-time staff before they can focus on the interns, right? So they're also preparing for a job market without an internship, which I talked a little bit about. Another big thing that isn't directly related to the job market, but something in the way that how our society is moving, is everything is remote right now. Even as more and more offices and workplaces start to go back into the office, right? But we're hearing from a lot of recruiters that they're going to be doing virtual networking, virtual information sessions, virtual interviews, because their company is saying that they want to keep their recruiting staff safe, right? So having the students adjust to this virtual platform can be difficult, even though they've already adapted a little bit taking classes online in the spring semester. And then the last one that I have here is finding work environments that reflect their values. So this is really important, and this is something that comes up that I talk with students about all the time, is making sure that the work environment that they are looking at or that has offered them a position reflects like who they are. Will they support their identity? Will it support their long-term career goals? And if they don't get their first choice, what about their second choice or third choice, and everything that goes into that decision making? So this is all pretty heavy stuff. I mean, again, this is all unexpected. When we're talking about that type of transition, students thought that they could just go right into this stable job market, and all of a sudden everything's kind of done a 180 and they have to adjust and adapt. Some other concerns that have come up that we've been hearing within the career services community, and I won't go through all of these, At the end of this, just as an aside, I'm going to make this presentation available via recording, and I'll also send you all the PowerPoint with all of the resources that I have listed. So you can take a look at these as well, but a couple that just to highlight is remote learning, which we'll talk about in a second. Gap years, that's something that I know has been coming up with students taking that gap year before going to, whether it's a graduate program or a law program or even a job, especially right now. How to begin their search, because many feel like they're starting late, which some of them are, but some of them, they just want to make sure that they're on top of things, and they want to make sure that they're putting their best foot forward in their career search. So it's about meeting them where they're at. So now comes the big question, right? So you as mentors, how can you help your students or your mentees that you're paired with, right? So connecting back to this transition theory that we went over briefly at the beginning, Schlossberg has this 4S approach that I really like, and that I typically work within the confines of when I'm career coaching students. And basically what you want to do is help your mentee assess their situation, themselves and their strengths, their support networks, and then develop concrete strategies to move forward. So we're going to go through all of these. And I also want to just put in there that I'm not asking you all to counsel. I know that a lot of you are coming from really great, diverse types of positions. So I don't expect you to be their counselor, to be their career counselor. That's what I'm here for. But I do want you to care. And that's intrinsic to the mentorship process, right? You join this program because you want to give back and because you want to help our current liberal arts students. So going through these 4 options and helping your mentee assess that can help that process along. Okay, so I'm going to stop here real quick because I know I just talked a lot. And I want to open up open up the question and answer to see if anybody has any questions so far before we dive into the practical ways that you can help your mentee. I'll also be going over a couple of statistics that I think will help all of you as well. Just give it a couple more seconds. All right, so if you're typing out a question, keep typing. As it comes up, I'll answer it. But I want to make sure that we're staying on time because I want to be respectful of the lunch hour that you're spending with me. So next, so we're going to, again, go over those 4 S's. So this approach to how you can help your mentee, right? So some of the things, and we're going to use the global pandemic as an example, that you can help your student identify and name are what is an aspect of the transition, so of everything that has been involved and the multi-layered transitions that they've been going through when it comes to this pandemic in the professional sense. What aspect of this transition does your mentee perceive as being within his or her control? And I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this on the next slide. Because when we're faced with uncertainty, this is one of the best ways that we can feel like we're remaining productive and we can feel like we're moving forward throughout and reaching our goals, right? So some other things to help assess the situation is the transition maybe considered on time or off time in terms of their development? So knowing that you're working with college kids, sometimes I have to remind myself of that. Some are much more farther along developed than others when it comes to their career paths. The duration of things. Is this a permanent, temporary, or uncertain amount of time that we're going to be dealing with this transition? And at this point in time, we know that the pandemic is going to be temporary. We just don't know for how long it's going to be temporary. Previous experiences with similar transitions. So this is a question that I like to ask during my career coaching appointments with students, is if they've had a similar experience. Now, I know that the pandemic is something that none of us have experienced before. So to give you just another example, say that your mentee is nervous about graduating college and taking a job across the country. And because they're worried, they don't know exactly what the environment's going to look like. It's the first time that they're really traveling that far. Talking to them about what their transition was like from high school to Penn State could be a useful experience to really ground them on, to say, look, you've done a similar transition before, you can do this again. If there are any other sources of current stress present, again, I want to remind you that, like, I'm not expecting you to counsel your mentees. Absolutely not. There are a whole host of resources if you feel like you're getting outside of that purview of, like, hey, I don't really know what to say here, or I don't really feel comfortable with the mental health aspect of things. There are plenty of resources that you can refer them to, including myself. And also, like, the assessment. So who or what is seen as responsible for this transition, and how is your mentee's behavior affected? So this might be something that might not be within their control. So thinking about the example of a student who lost their internship for the summer, that was completely outside of their control and is on the employer because they're not able to honor that internship that they had given that student. However, given the global situation, that type of transition could be expected, right? So again, I really want to focus in on what is within and outside of your mentee's control. So this is a graphic that I know was circulated around the beginning of the pandemic in March and April, which honestly at this point seems like a year ago. But it's a really, again, easy way to present to your mentee, like, what can they control? What can they be doing right now to be productive, to keep them going forward as the fall is approaching, right? So just some upcoming transitions that we know about Penn State right now is that there is going to be a shift back to campus in August. If you have not heard yet, Penn State is planning to move back to campus to hold in-person, a hybrid of flexible, remote, and in-person courses. And that shift back to campus is going to look a lot different. It's not going to be the same as when everybody was able to be on campus without masks and not have to maintain social distancing rules. So their academics, their social activities, the clubs and organizations that they wanted to be a part of, the research that they were doing could be affected. So what opportunities are available is up in the air right now because the university has not released that type of information quite yet. Not only that, but they're going to be then shifting back to an online format after Thanksgiving. So they're starting out in person in this weird hybrid model, and then they're going back to online learning after Thanksgiving, which a majority of universities are doing. So they're following that protocol, which is great. But that means that students are going to be experiencing that transition again. So these are just things that when we're thinking about what's inside and what's outside of our control, this is something that the students can't control. This is something that staff, this is something that you as mentors, we can't control, right? So it's more so a question of how do we best support your mentees as they're going through these different types of transitions in order to best help them within their career paths. So knowing this, I wanted to give you a couple of statistics because when we're thinking about what is within our control and what's outside of our control, we need to gather information, right? And that's not only just regurgitating what Penn State is putting out there and what their policies are going to be. We need to look at this more on a national level. So since the beginning of the pandemic, I want to say in April is when this started, the National Association of Colleges and Employers started putting out these quick polls for employers to fill out to talk about how they're adapting and adjusting to the pandemic. So what we know from employers through a full-time job lens is that only a small number of employers have revoked offers for full-time jobs that they made to the class of 2020. However, that number is consistently growing since April, which is expected, because if we think about the pandemic on a national level, it peaked for this first round in April. And we have a percentage here where 8.4% of employers have revoked or will revoke for full-time offers to graduates from the class of 2020. So I would hope that by this point, because I know all of this information honestly is changing minute to minute, sometimes it seems, that at this point, we're hoping that there's not too many more full-time offers revoked, but obviously that's contingent on where the employers are standing, right? So this percentage is climbing overall, though it was down from 9% last week. So this information is very updated. This was just put out this past week. And as a benchmark, the number of full-time revoked offers reached about 9.5% during the Great Recession in 2008. So just to give you kind of a comparison about what those graduating seniors were facing. So some more information that I feel like may be helpful and that I personally just find very interesting to kind of keep myself updated in order to best help my students is that 30% of responding employers are delaying start dates. So this is a really important thing to take into consideration. So I just want to pause here because I see that one person has lost their audio. So if I'm wondering, does everybody else have audio connection before I continue? Oh. Okay. So everybody else is good and has audio connection. Okay. Sorry, Chris. I would just try to reconnect as we're going along. Okay. So back to what we're looking at when it comes to what we're seeing for full-time employers. So a lot of them are delaying those start dates. So just to give another example, I have another family member who just graduated with their undergraduate degree. They were originally supposed to start in June. Now they're starting in August. So out of those respondents, about 74% of the delay is 1 to 3 months, and a majority of them are considering government regulations when they're making these decisions. So they're informed decisions and not just on a whim. We have about 59% of employers that are planning to start full-time hires working remotely. So this is a big change, right? So we're not seeing what we typically see where a student graduates, it's your first job, you get an apartment near where you're going to be working and go into work that first day, meet people in person and start settling in. It's going to have to be done remotely. So luckily, some of these students have, or all of these students really have experienced that shift to online learning. So they've adapted at the end of the spring semester, but this is still something that they're going to have to adapt to. So about 58% of respondents said that they still need to determine the duration of the remote start. So whether that's 1 month, 3 months, or like the family member that I had mentioned at the beginning until January. So there are a lot of different things to take into consideration here. So this is a graph from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And if you want to read the full article, if you're curious, at the bottom here, where it says NACE Quick Poll, that's a link to the article. So you'll be able to access that when I send this PowerPoint out. But so when we're thinking about revoking employment offers and a comparison, this chart is a pretty great representation of, it's a great visual representation because you can just see how a majority of people aren't revoking those offers to full-time recruits. But they are about, it looks like as of May, about 17% of employers have revoked offers to interns, which again, we've been seeing a lot of those students come through our virtual offices to talk about what to do when they don't have an internship. And then you can see like a majority aren't revoking offers. So this might mean that they're going remote. This might mean delay start date. This, even for internships, I've heard that some students, they were supposed to start in May and they wound up starting or are planning to start in July and just do more of that micro or mini internship, which is, I know, a buzzword that's being thrown around recently. So another graph that might be helpful, and this is just very reflective of the pandemic and how we've adjusted, is in April, about 83.2% of employers said that they were going to alter their internship program. And again, this could mean remote, this could mean delay start date, this could mean just altering the position in general. So that gives you a sense of how, when you're working with students, what they expected to happen back in the fall semester when they obtained and accepted this internship, it didn't happen. So there's that sense of loss there, right? And then, so ultimately, most employers, and I know Penn State is definitely one of them, there's still a ton of uncertainty, even as they're continually pushing out guidelines. So some of them are considering changes to budgets or spending freezes or moving to virtual recruiting methods. Like as we get into the fall semester with our career fairs going virtual. So that's something to definitely keep in mind as you're coaching students on an elevator pitch. What is that going to look like on a virtual format? Or how do I submit a resume virtually? Or how do I virtually interview or virtually network? So all of these different types of things are kind of bubbling up as our society is adapting and changing. So again, I just want to remind us of going back and rooting ourselves in this transition theory, thinking about what's inside our control and what's outside of our control, right? So that's something that, as we have all of these situational things outside of us that can be so anxiety producing, and there's a lot of uncertainty, those things are outside our control for the most part. So now we need to reflect inside of our control to see what we can do in order to best move forward. And so during this next part, I'm going to focus a lot on specific tactics that you can use with your mentees in order to best help them. Okay, so, but before I do that, I just want to pause and open up the floor. I'll give about a minute to just type in any questions so far. I know I've reviewed a lot of data, but I thought it would be interesting and helpful as you're moving forward. Okay, so I know I just gave a couple seconds, but I want to, again, be wary of time. So if you have a question, please keep typing. Okay, we have a couple of people who have to duck out, which is totally fine. Remember that this is going to be recorded. All right. Okay, so moving forward. So again, we're taking this look at the mentees. We want to assess their situation, themselves, their support network, and then strategies. So The next part is the self. And this is, again, within our circle of control, right? So we have we're looking at what are their personal and demographic characteristics in how they view life, their values, their skills, their beliefs. And liberal arts students, as you all know, because you're all wonderful liberal arts alumni, have so many strengths, and these strengths transcend the job market and are so transferable. So these are just a couple that I found and that I know my liberal arts students have, which is curiosity and the ability to problem solve and critically think and communicate, and relying on context to make decisions, and being visionary. But the two most important, I feel like in this situation especially, is this ability to be adaptable and to be resilient. Because when we're faced with a global, we could even call it a global trauma, that ability to be resilient through this time and draw upon our strengths as liberal arts students is something is going to help us get through this situation and assess what's in our control. So connecting it back a little bit more practically, though, these are qualities that employers are looking for. So every year, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, the ones who did the quick poll, put out this survey to employers to see what they want in a prospective employee. And this is the list that they've come up with. I believe that this list is from 2017, but it honestly hasn't changed much since I've been in the field of career services since 2014. So all of these skills, and this is something that I actually present within the class that I teach, are related to what liberal arts students possess. So the ability to be flexible and adaptable and to take initiative, and the ability to communicate, whether it's verbally or through the written word, the ability to lead, the ability to be organized and strategically plan. So when we're thinking about leveraging those skills, making sure that these qualities are what are coming up for our students as they're working on their resume, as they're practicing their interviewing skills, etc. So the next S is that of support. So again, we're assessing our mentees' support system. So do they have family units or partners that they can rely on, or networks of friends and peers or colleagues? Relying on the institution, oh my gosh, send them to my office, have them make an appointment with me. I'm always happy to work with them. And then ultimately you. So you as mentors are the experts in your career journey, are experts in your experiences and your skills and in your career field. So while I have a broad view of career fields, you have that niche view that is really going to help your student in succeeding and remaining resilient and adapting during this time. Not only this, but networking right now is so essential. It's one of the things that I'm constantly bringing up within my career coaching appointments, because we need support networks to help us propel ourselves within our professional development. But not only that, we need our support networks and our professional networks to lean on, to adapt during these changing times and to remain on top and innovate within our fields. So helping them with this networking aspect of things based on your experiences, as well as referring them to different events that our office is going to be holding in the fall and in the spring semesters can be really, really helpful. So then comes the big part, right? So we're taking a look at the different strategies that we want to really focus on. So as you're working with your mentee, you want to make sure that you're aiding in that management of stress, and do this with your own mental health and wellness in mind too. So I just want to make sure that you have those boundaries that are set with your mentee. And I know you all do a fabulous job, but it's really important to keep your own stress levels in mind too. But one of the ways that you can help them is by reaching out. We did a focus group back in November. Two of our members of our Alumni Society Board, Linda and Janice, and I did a focus group with students who are about the Alumni Mentor Program and their experiences in it. So one of the things that they said is that they might feel intimidated, or they might not feel comfortable reaching out because they don't want to bug you. But obviously, like, you're there as a mentor to be bugged. So sometimes they need just that olive branch and that hand to hold out to. So if you reach out to them, that might regenerate some of those different conversations to check in. You also want to make sure that you're helping them set goals. So this could be SMART goals. We have a lot of resources on this within the Alumni Mentor Handbook. So helping them establish specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals. Another way to help them set goals is at the end of each meeting that you have with them, plan for your next meeting. That way they have something on the books and you're holding them accountable, because we all know, and I mean, as a former student, I know how sometimes they need to be held accountable. So doing that can be helpful in helping them with their growth. You also want to refer to relevant resources, including the Career Enrichment Network, so including my office. And this is something, again, I want to remind you that as you're working with your mentees, if you ever feel uncomfortable and like you're practicing outside of your purview when it comes to your mentorship, please just reach out. I am more than happy to facilitate that conversation with the student and get them the help that they need. We don't expect you to counsel. We just want you to care. So the last part, when it comes to strategies, and these are things that I am constantly working with a couple of students on, especially the go-getters who just want everything planned out, is you want to make sure that your students are remaining patient, remaining proactive, and they're planning for the fall, and remaining flexible and open-minded, because that flexibility and open-mindedness is really going to add to their resilience and adaptability. So when it comes to the patience part of things, again, just telling them, like giving them a little bit of perspective, because you are within your career fields and you have an inside look of the professional world, just explaining to them that there's a lot of stuff going on right now, which is why they might not have heard back from a specific employer. It can be really helpful. Remaining proactive is something that students can really work on as well. So we have, and you can see this, I screenshotted this, but our office came up with a professional development summer 2020 checklist. And it goes through just some steps and links that students can do during the summer to remain proactive, especially if they don't have an internship, or especially if they thought that they were going to have an internship or some type of professional development opportunity and it just didn't work out for them, whether COVID related or not. So these are specific guidelines that you can give your student to say, hey, this is something that you could be doing right now that might be helpful to you. And that link under the Be Proactive, that is actually going to direct you directly to that professional checklist for you to distribute if you would like. Okay, so I want to, again, just focus on this uncertainty a little bit more. So just to kind of summarize, outside our control, we have this global pandemic. We have a lot of other things nationally going on right now that we might not have direct control over. However, inside our control is what we have ourselves and reflecting on our strengths, our support networks, and strategies that we can put into place to remain proactive in order to hit the ground running in the fall and help our students make the best of this uncertain situation. Okay, so real quick, before I go over a couple of resources, and then I'm going to leave the last 10 minutes for any other questions, I just wanted to, again, just check in real quick. So I'll give a couple seconds for anybody to type. Okay. So again, if you're typing a question, keep typing. I'll definitely come back to it at the end. All right. So I wanted to go over a little bit about what our office does, and just to give you all an overview about what the Career Enrichment Network can help with. That way you can add us to your mentorship tool belt when it comes to different resources that you can refer your mentee to. So the Career Enrichment Network, we help with a lot of things. We're one of the many offices on campus that helps with career-related concerns. So some of the things that we do are internship and job search help. We help with global experiences, professional development. We offer financial support through enrichment funding. And then obviously we give fabulous advice from our alumni mentors. We're located in 101 Sparks Building, and we are going to be available through the fall semester, but online or in person or a little bit of a mix of both is yet to be determined, as our own office kind of leans into that uncertainty a bit. So I just want to go over a couple of different things a little bit more in depth. So when it comes to the internship and job search, one of the things that we offer are career coaching appointments, and that can be scheduled through Nittany Lion Careers. So it's nittanyLionCareers.psu.edu. And within Nittany Lion Careers, they can do resume and cover letter reviews. We do them, again, over appointments. Right now they're virtual or online. They can apply to internship and job postings through the job board in Nittany Lion Careers, which I like to say is like the job board just for Penn State students. They can find professional development events and workshops, search for information sessions, and then schedule career coaching appointments. We also help with global experience as well. Our director, Susan Nell, is responsible for this right now. Right now, I'm not going to go over this a lot just because as of now, fall semester, I believe that study abroad is not occurring, and the spring semester is kind of up in the air. But these are some of the things that we can help them out with, connecting them with faculty that go abroad, research abroad, internships abroad, things like that as well. We also do a lot of professional development. So if your mentee hasn't taken the StrengthsFinder assessment, it's free to them, and I highly recommend it. I think it's kind of cool to see what your top 5 strengths are, and helping them relate those strengths to the interview or to keywords in their resume, or how they present themselves in a networking situation can be really helpful in helping them develop that language to better articulate who they are and what they're bringing to the table. We also offer 2 sections of LA 103. I'm teaching one of the sections again in the fall. We basically go through this class. It's a 1-credit class where we go through the entire career development process with them. So if they're looking for a class, have them talk to their advisor and maybe bring this up. We also offer enrichment funding, so students are able to receive funding for participation in internships, global experiences, research, whether paid or unpaid, and they apply via online. We like to say that enrichment funding won't fund their entire experience, but it will fund a part of it. And our assistant director, Katie Wysocki, is responsible for the enrichment funding, working with our team in our office and within liberal arts. So I'd be happy to refer you to her if you have any questions about that, or if you feel like your mentee could benefit. So here are some other resources that I just want to go over very quickly. All of these are linked. So I highly recommend when I send you this PowerPoint and when I send you this recording that you take a look at some of these resources. So we have career services, which serves all students across the university, where our office, the Career Enrichment Network, just serves liberal arts students. We collaborate with them a lot. We have other college career offices, so every college across Penn State has a career office or a career contact that they can work with, including Schreier Honors College. They have their own career office as well. Penn State coronavirus information is up there just in case you're curious. The National Association of Colleges and Employers, where I got all that data, is up there as well. And then the one outside resource that I really want to highlight is the, so I saw that Sean, who works in Schreier, who's also a mentor, says that they have a career office, and it's a really great office to work with. So thanks, Sean. So the last one that I want to go over really quickly is the International Mentoring Association. So this is a professional association that you can look into as mentors. I am a member, and they offer a lot of different seminars, and they offer a lot of different resources for mentors. So that's definitely, if you're looking for something outside of Penn State, I highly recommend looking there too. So the other liberal arts resources that I just want to mention is that the Career Enrichment Network has their own, we have our own COVID-19 website. So it's gethired.la.psu.edu. And again, this is all linked in the PowerPoint. But with the Career Enrichment Network, with our website, we have a lot of different resources. There are resources on major decision making and what can you do with this major. We have motivational webinars and speakers. We did a speaker series back at the end of the fall semester that are uploaded for students to see. So I highly, highly recommend you all checking that out. I linked the summer checklist that I had screenshotted earlier right here as well. And then the last thing that I want to just put a quick plug in for is our Alumni Mentor Program LinkedIn group. So along with our Alumni Society board members, Linda and Janice, we've been monitoring and really trying to create this community where alumni mentors can ask each other questions. So if you're struggling with your mentor, or if you have a question or a challenge that comes up, please join the LinkedIn group if you haven't and post that question. There are also announcements that I post in there, different infographics and just tips that mentors as well as staff are constantly posting in there as well. So I highly recommend joining. So just as a quick summary, and then I want to leave the last couple minutes for questions, comments, concerns, whatever in the chat box. Is reach out to your mentee to check in if you haven't. Just because, again, extending that olive branch might just be the start that you need and what they might need. Help them identify things they can and can't control. And from there, identify how you can plan and develop strategies to help them and connect them within your career network, right? You want to refer to them to resources as needed. So again, add all of the resources here into your mentorship tool belt. So I know that you all, again, are experts within your field. You probably have a lot of outside Penn State resources that you rely on constantly. So here are just a couple of others to keep in your tool belt to pull out if your mentee needs something a little bit more Penn State specific. And then ask questions if you need help. If you need anything, myself and Chris Gamble are always here to help if you need something or if you have any questions. All right, so it looks like we had one question come in so far. So Randy had asked, what year students, freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, do you recommend taking the LA 103 class? That's a really good question. All years are welcome. Typically, we see a lot of sophomores and juniors. This past semester, we had a lot of seniors who just needed the extra credit to graduate, but they did get a lot out of the class, which was good. But I would say, like, if you are looking for a recommendation, I would say it's probably the most beneficial in your junior year, just because we really focus in on building and identifying strengths, going over interviewing tips. They get their resume reviewed. They're required to go to 3 career events and do some networking. And then they have to do informational interviews as well. So I would say ideally junior year, but honestly, all are welcome. So thanks for the question, Randy. I appreciate it. All right, so I'll hang out here for a couple minutes until about 1 o'clock. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat. Or if you have any specific questions that are directly related to your situation that you might want a little bit more in-depth information about, feel free to email me. My email's up on this slide as well as on our website. I'd be happy to talk to you over the phone or through email, and we can kind of go from there. So thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. No problem, everyone. Thank you so much for attending.